What if you could charge an electric vehicle as fast as you can fill up a tank of gas? We're at Ample, a company developing a battery swapping technology for cars to recharge in 5 minutes or less.
When we think about electrification, the experience can be particularly bad because you're worried about how long this battery is going to work. Will I be able to find a charger? We've been freed from that.
Why do this? Well, the way we currently charge EVs is insane.
You're having energy coming through wires all the way halfway across the state, generating heat and losing a lot of energy. The similarity with a gas pump hose is almost a trick.
And battery anxiety is one of the main reasons people cite for not wanting to buy an electric vehicle.
The beauty about gas is everywhere. I could give you a gas car with any sort of range and you'd have no anxiety around it. So we need to solve charging anxiety. We need to make it a very simple experience.
So can Ample's battery swapping unlock a future where EVs don't just charge quickly, but their batteries can even get better with time? So let's go see how it all works. This is Hard Reset. All right. Pretty much everyone is familiar with the idea of putting in new batteries.
Let's throw this TV out. The batteries in the remote are getting low.
So we came to Ample to meet the folks making it possible to change out the biggest battery that most people will ever own, the one in their electric vehicle.
So battery swapping has been around from the 40s. What ended up happening though is gas came and gas works very efficiently. We wanted to make sure that the experience is at least as good as gas. And the way to solve it is to separate the car from the battery. You then have a massive impact on carbon footprint and you really solve the problem.
That's John, and he was born in Africa, finished high school in Dubai, did his MBA in France, and is now here in the US. So he has a somewhat global perspective.
I think it's easy to be in some parts of the US and say, look, everybody has a garage, you can just charge overnight. But when you go to other countries, you realize that's not the reality. Because you're parking on the street, they don't need the long ranges, but they need it to work.
Swappable batteries are making a comeback. It's currently being used for scooters in lots of places, and there's a car battery swapping solution in China. We came to see this battery swapping system designed by Ample. They're currently operating in Spain and Japan, and just down the street from my house. Guess which location I went to? Japan! No, just kidding, it's down the street from my house. Our budgets are so very small. Please like and subscribe. Anyway, this is Khaled, the other co-founder of Ample, and he's not one to sugarcoat things.
If we're honest with ourselves, if it wasn't for environmental and pollution reasons, we'd never move away from gas as long as we had it. It works, it's convenient, it's easy, we've built the infrastructure, etc. So our challenge was not competing with charging. You're competing with gas, which is already established. The problem was, how do you build infrastructure very rapidly? Because if there is no infrastructure, no one will buy the cars.
A battery swapping station isn't going to work if it's done manually. Having people pull batteries out of your car and then put fresh ones back in would be time and cost prohibitive. So this station is designed to be totally automated. How much do these weigh, just out of curiosity?
Actually, if you want to test your...
Oh yeah.
Just don't use your back for it, but you're welcome.
So let's watch Nick injure himself on camera. Lift with your legs, not your back. Oh, that's not light. That's probably...
It's about 25 pounds or something.
More than that. Ample created their own battery system so they can use the same modules for each kind of car that rolls up.
We very, very quickly realized that modularity was a key. If you don't have modularity, you're not going to be able to make battery swapping work effectively. You're not going to be able to build one station that works across all cars.
This station is unique in that it is a station that can go all the way from a small Fiat 500e to an e-Canter truck, from that to a Class 3 truck. Part of what was important for what we did is to come up with a way to make the car swappable without changing anything in the car.
Right.
We provide a battery that's a drop-in replacement for the battery that they have. And we'll go through, take the battery out, put our battery in. It gets,
that's this down here.
Correctly. It gets mounted in exactly the same way. So this is our battery.
Okay.
From underneath is where we can go through and access all of the trays and the modules.
Right.
This part stays with the car. It uses exactly the same bolts, the same connectors. Everything stays exactly the same in the vehicle.
Right. For each EV model, Ample designs an adapter plate that replaces the manufacturer's battery and can use their battery modules and swapping stations.
You build a module that's the right size, and a lot of thinking really went into what is the right size. That means if I have a Fiat 500e like what's behind me, I can put 6 of them. If I have an e-Canter Mitsubishi Fuso, I can put 8 or 16 or 24. I can put as many of them and arrange them in any way I want. But a lot of the innovation went into what we call the adapter plate that gets installed into the car that allows us to plug these modules in. And that will be vehicle specific.
A system like this might seem like a big departure from how we fill up cars with gas. But in a way, it's more similar than you think. When we're filling a car with gas, we're moving molecules into that car directly. It's fast and easy. Plugging in a car to charge it might look similar to filling it up with gas, but it's a totally different physics problem.
The similarity is artificial. You're having energy coming through wires all the way halfway across the state, being pushed and losing energy as it's moving, and then you're changing the chemical composition of the battery inside the car.
That's an exothermic reaction. The faster you do it, the more heat it generates. You hear, oh, this is a great superfast charger, it's liquid cooled. What are you doing with liquid cooling? You're taking energy and throwing it into the air. But it's like going to a gas station, filling your gas tank with a hose that has a hole in it, and they're just squirting gas onto the floor.
Of course, you can still charge these batteries once they're in your car. You can still plug them into a level 1 or 2 charger and fill them up the way you normally would. But this system also makes it easy to swap them out for fresh molecules too. So how easy is it to change the batteries in your car? As easy as swapping out a blue Rhino tank? Let's try it to find out. The swap process is pretty simple. You open up the app and find a station. As you approach the station, you get a notification letting you know when you can start your swap.
Okay, so since I don't own an electric vehicle yet, the folks from Ample have loaned me theirs, and I'm just gonna test out how easy it is to use their battery swapping station. If I can do it, pretty much anyone can. So we're gonna see how well this works.
Driving into the swap station is almost exactly like driving into an automatic car wash. There's a screen that tells you when to enter, stop, or go back if you went too far.
Close.
I went too far. I went back. I got it on like the 3rd try. I'm a pretty good driver. It just takes a little practice, okay?
All right, so once you get this up onto the platform with your wheels in the right spot, and it pretty much makes it dummy-proof, it guides you in, then these platforms will move around to lock your wheels in place while it lifts your car up, and the robots will go to work.
They're working on a future update that would let you just hang out inside the car so you can just sit there while the robots do their thing like they're working at the car wash. And that's really it. It takes about 5 minutes, which is only slightly longer than it usually takes me to fill up my car with gas.
And then you can drive off, which we'll see how good I'm at.
It's really no more exciting than filling your car up with gas, which is kind of the point.
It's not very far to drive in this garage, but you get the idea. I mean, I guess I could keep going, but the next 1.5 feet seems like it's a lot of risk and very low reward.
The batteries it takes out of your car are taken into the back of the swapping station and put into a rack where they charge up slowly over the course of the day. One of the nicest things about this process, though, isn't the time you save. It's the fact that you're separating your car from the battery. Okay, so let's look at it this way. Here are 2 expensive pieces of electronics that I rely on a daily basis. My smartphone and the camera that we film a lot of episodes of Hard Reset on. Now, every time the battery in my iPhone has died, I've solved that problem by just buying a new iPhone. Whereas with this guy, I can just buy a new battery. Pull that one off, recycle it, and put a new one on. And what's nice is that this new battery might actually just be better overall because it was made a couple years later. But I don't have to replace the rest of this camera just because the battery went dead. So thinking about that, isn't it a little crazy that the way we build our electric vehicles is with the built-in batteries like our phone instead of the swappable batteries like my camera?
With battery swapping, you have a guarantee that you always get a good battery that will actually improve over time. It fundamentally changes the perception.
I think that's a much, much better use case. The anxiety about, hey, when am I going to get a battery as good as I have, is more of maybe the short deal we dealt people, right?
With a system like this, as battery technology improves over time, your car will see the benefit of those improvements without you needing to, buy a whole new car.
We don't want to be just backward compatible, we also want to be future compatible. So we built these batteries in a way that we can keep introducing new chemistry and it still continues to work with all of the existing vehicles and future vehicles.
You can even customize how many batteries you keep in your car at any time. So for daily use, you might just have one set of batteries, so you're not hauling around a lot of extra weight you don't need. But you could fill up the additional slots if you were doing a longer trip.
That means more efficient cars that drive further on the same charge. That means less environmental footprint. I'm making a lot less batteries to drive the same number of miles.
It reminds me, when I used to live in Africa, when people fill the gas tank,
Right.
they never fill it all the way. They don't carry the extra weight.
Right.
So my dad and all would always go up to half and say, look, it's a lot lighter, it's much more efficient.
Yeah.
So in the same way with this, is you choose what you want from an efficiency perspective. These weigh a lot more than gas, so you want to be careful. You could be carrying 1,000 pounds or you could be carrying 500 pounds. So it gives you a lot of flexibility
Right.
to choose how much weight you're carrying.
That's really smart.
And long trips are where this really matters. One of the main concerns people have about electric vehicles is range anxiety. But it's not really the vehicle's range that's making you anxious.
The issue you have is what happens when you run out. So people have a tremendous amount of charging anxiety.
Because when you run out of gas, you know that you're always going to find a gas station within 5 minutes and you're going to be out of there in 5 to 10 minutes.
For a system like this to work, it needs to be ubiquitous. It needs to be as easy to find and use as a typical gas station. And that's hard because it means building lots of them in lots of places. That doesn't happen overnight.
It has to be fast to deploy. That means you don't make it a construction project. Right now, it takes us about a week to deploy a station. We drop it on the ground, connect it together, we turn it on. We're already working on the next generation station. It's going to take us 2 to 3 days to deploy a station. And not just that, if we want to take it down, it's the same process. Just take it apart, move it elsewhere, and drop it in.
Now, the surprising thing is it takes a lot fewer stations to give you the geographic coverage you need. If you look at like the full Bay Area, you need about 10 to 15 stations, and then you scale as people go through and use it.
The plan right now is to use these for fleets like delivery drivers or rideshare services. That means you can't use ample battery swapping just yet, not unless you're renting from a specific car-sharing company in Spain. Over time, as they build up the infrastructure, it'll also be available for individual consumers as well.
We use that effectively as a Trojan horse to build infrastructure. They're known customers, they're defined, you know exactly how many stations, we build to demand, but suddenly you hit a threshold that you can go to consumer.
So will battery swapping catch up in the race for how we power our electric vehicles? What'll it mean if they do? Right now, most charging infrastructure is just mimicking the way we fuel up gas vehicles. But that's slow, expensive, and wasteful. So picture a scenario where swap stations were as easy to find as gas stations or superchargers. You could still charge your car at home, but quickly swap out your batteries on longer trips. These swap stations don't need to pull massive amounts of power from the grid all the time like superchargers. They can pull energy from renewables like wind and solar when they're active, and even act as a backup for the grid when there's increased demand. For personal electric vehicles, it means that the car you buy won't die with its battery. And for autonomous or fleet vehicles, it means that they could be out doing productive work instead of just sitting there waiting to charge. The premise of Hard Reset is to think about how we'd rebuild things from the ground up in theory. But for charging EVs, that's happening for real right now. So instead of just copying the past because it feels familiar, maybe we should make something that will establish a new normal for the future.